Okay, let's talk Bethenny Frankel because she seems to be rooting for Bo Dietl and Teresa and Louie, saying that Louie is actually really smart. So she revealed on her Rewives podcast that she had actually hired Bo Dietl herself. Not anything housewives related, but I guess it was a ring, and she wanted Bo Dietl to investigate it. She said that it was the only time she ended up working with him. I guess she met him through one of her exes, but maybe it was Dennis. That would be the most likely ex that would hire a Bo Dietl. But anyway, she talks about how she hired Bo and he ultimately didn't really find anything and she ended up solving the crime. She was Carmen Sandiego and solved the crime all on her own without the help of Bo Dietl, and she's never worked with him again. So she is familiar with Bo Dietl. And then she said that in terms of Louis hiring Bo Dietl, she said that she thought that it was really smart and she's actually, she thinks that it's him fighting fire with fire. I mean, sure. I just think it's creepy. It's like I get it if you're a house because her argument is like housewife. Nobody hides things more than housewives. So yeah, you should be able to dig up dirt on them and use that against them because they're hiding things. And if you're on a reality show, you shouldn't really have to hide things. Bethenny also talked about how she had an ex that hired a private investigator, not Bo Dietl, but hired a private investigator to hack her emails and follow her and keep tabs on her, and ultimately didn't find anything. But I just think it's weird and it's creepy, and I'm not agreeing with Bethenny in the sense that it's Louis who's not on the show, right? He claims he doesn't want to be on the show. He's Teresa's husband. There are a lot of red flags that we're seeing, so it's natural that people are going to have questions about him and his relationship. But him hiring a private investigator to dig up information on these other women, I think is weird and I think is creepy, and I don't see where Bethenny is team Louis on this. That's a little confusing. I guess she's like, what's fighting fire with fire? There's a lot of stuff on him that they brought up on camera, so why can't he bring up stuff on them? But it's like, one, I don't think they went looking for information on him because everything that was on him was already out there and all the blogs were all already talking about it because his exes were coming out and talking about it. So it was information that was publicly out there, right? It wasn't information that anybody intentionally dug up and then brought specifically on the show because it was circulating before the show went into production, circulating publicly because his exes were coming out and saying these things about him publicly. So, and then the videos were leaking. So it's not like anybody was intentionally trying to dig up information and put it out there. It was already getting out there. And so I see where Margaret came in and she was like, listen, it's already out there. Just address it and we can move on from it. But Teresa's resistance to addressing it is ultimately what made it blow up to the big level that it ultimately did. And it got messy. But so I get Bethenny's perspective. And I think to an extent, yeah, she's right. But we also don't want to set that precedent, right? Of investigating housewives and that's what it becomes. The show becomes this expository thing. That's not what we want. We don't want this gotcha, take down season after season sort of situation. We want them to live their lives organically and to have friendships organically. That's what I think made New York so rich is these women, the show is based off of their friendships and their relationships. Even Jersey, that's what made it so rich is it was based off of the family aspect. I think that's what Beverly Hills does so well is it had the long lasting friendships on top of the family drama that those are real things that we're invested in. We're invested in lifestyles and relationships. We're not invested in exposing people's dirty skeletons. That's not fun for us. It's happened, and yes, there have been moments where it's been good and it's been scandalous and it's created great television, but we don't want to set that precedent as that's what it becomes because then I think housewives will become more guarded. They'll want to hide more things. And then it'll be this constant, gotcha, let me expose you. And it'll just get dirtier and deeper and darker. And it just is no longer enjoyable to watch because we don't watch housewives to watch them become exposed. We watch them for the rich storylines. We watch them for the history of the friendships. We watch them for their glamorous lifestyles. Again, that's what made New York so great. There was never this let's expose each other sort of situation. It was always we have these fights and these conflicts because we're friends and we fight and we make up and we go on vacation together and we party and we get shit-faced and we have a good time and we fight and we come back. And it was just that ever-evolving friendship that I think is what made RHONJ so magical. And that's what we want to see. We don't want to see people hire private investigators. This is where, even though in Bethenny's mind, she's like, that's brilliant. I don't think it's brilliant. I don't agree with Bethenny at all. I think it's setting a bad expectation of what a cast member is supposed to do, and it's a husband investigating the wives. That's just too far for me.